Hey everybody, welcome to the Dad Challenge podcast, my story part 5, which is French for 5. I got it right. Awesome. Well, today we're going to go down a couple of different kind of finishings. This is probably the last part of my story, unless I do like a 6 overall. I don't think I will, but I think I should be able to get it done in this hour or so that we have here. First part of the story is right before I move to become the pastor of the big church, my weight loss journey. And it's really, really cool, scary, dumb, and smart. Best thing I ever did. And then we're going to talk about my mom because that comes right afterwards. And it's a really, really important part of my story. There's going to be a lot. I think I want to bring it all to a head here and show you guys that there is redemption and that there is good in everybody and that anything can be healed. Not anything, but most things can be healed when people are willing to come together. I know it sounds cheesy, but that's exactly what happened here. So, are you ready? Here we go. So I left you guys off with moving to where I am now, becoming the pastor. And then there's a 5-part series of why I'm no longer a pastor, which you can go check out. But before that, I was delivering pizza and I was doing all this stuff, but I was really, really fat. Here's a picture of us at the Christmas tree at my fattest. I know, right? Okay, I'm huge. And that is at my most uncomfortable too. That is the most unhealthy I've ever been. Honestly, I don't know how I got there. Because most of my life, I have been a big boy, but not this big. This is the biggest I've ever been. You can even see the uncomfort in my face. Like I can feel it on my body now. Looking back, I can actually feel that on and how uncomfortable I was. If you're morbidly obese like I was, your quality of life is shit, okay? It's garbage. And for me, it was just life habits, big giant meals, just doing stupid stuff and not taking care of my body at all. I went to the doctor, I went to the hospital, they put me in a sleep test and they said, man, if you don't get this sleep apnea machine, you're going to have a heart attack eventually. Because when you have sleep apnea, and anybody can get it, not just overweight people, but lots of people have sleep apnea, but it tends to be more dangerous if you're a larger person, right? Because it's like your throat is closing, you stop breathing, right? And that's bad for your blood pressure and everything else. So not only am I sleeping with a CPAP machine, which is it's not comfortable, okay? It blows shit right up your nose. It opens the airway and it makes noise. You got to put this giant mask on. It's uncomfortable, but safe to sleep and get better sleep, right? So I was not only have a CPAP, but I went to the doctor and the doctor was like, yeah, dude, you're going to die. So it all came to a head at this moment though. Everyone and I went skating. She was, I don't know, 3, 4 maybe. I don't know how old she was, but she was really young. Okay. And there was this pond in the back of our house where we lived. And we went skating. I tied up her skates, and then I went to tie my own skates. And I know this sounds really weird, but I remember this moment like it was yesterday. I'll never forget it. I could not bend over, from the bench to tie my skates. I couldn't do it. I could not breathe. So I would bend over, and all my fat and belly and everything would push up, and I literally couldn't breathe. I had no range of motion, and I couldn't skate with my daughter. I kid you not. I know that sounds whatever, but it broke my heart. My daughter didn't really care because whatever, but it broke my heart. And I'm like, I got to fix this problem. That was rock bottom for me as far as my weight's concerned. I know it was heavy. I know it was big. Clothes wouldn't fit. I was wearing triple XL shirts. I had to go to the US to buy my shirts. Okay. I was humongous. All right. I'm eating massive calories, probably 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day. I could pound as much food as I was just so bad at it. Okay. I was so terrible. And that moment right there broke my heart. I looked up at the stars. I literally had tears in my eyes. I'm crying, but not trying to show to my daughter I'm crying, but I am defeated at that moment. Anybody who struggles with weight to a degree where it impacts a lot of your life, not only does it impact maybe your romantic life, it can impact your family life, it can impact your social life, everything. It hurts, right? Being that big, it hurts. And a lot of people will say, well, it's this world has come to a point where we talk about fat acceptance and everything else. I promise you guys, I think you should never, tear down people that are struggling with their weight and all that stuff, but fat acceptance cannot be a thing. We cannot allow the world to accept this the way it is because it will kill people. I mean, maybe socially it can be an acceptable thing to be like, don't fat shame people, don't do all that kind of stuff, whatever. Okay, whatever. I don't care. I was morbidly obese. I was very unhealthy, and I would not have loved people to have been like, yeah, you're fine the way you are, because I was not fine the way I am. So I do struggle with that because I don't want to see people die being overweight. Okay, I think it's really, really dangerous. So I just want to get that caveat out of the way. I think that is a part in the world where we need to correct. And I'm not saying shame people into losing weight, but don't say that it's okay to do that either, right? I don't think any doctor would be like, yeah, it's cool that you're 400 pounds. Yes, queen. That's not how this is going to work. So anyway, I went to the doctor after that and I said, doctor, what am I going to do here? And he said, well, there's a couple options. Let's do all your blood tests, do everything you need to do. Let's take everything. And it turned out that I had a fatty liver, which is crazy because I've never drank alcohol in my entire life. That's just straight up from eating gross food. Okay. I had really high blood pressure. I was 1 point away from being diabetic. Okay. Which is really, really dangerous. And obviously I couldn't breathe properly. I just couldn't if I ran, I would die. Right. So doctor says, you got to fix this problem or you're going to die. And I said, well, what about like the surgeries that you can get? Will they help? And the doctor told me, looked me straight in the eye. He said, I can measure the success of those surgeries on the pin of a needle. So getting that won't really help you. That's what he told me. And okay, my doctor says that, but I didn't care. I'm going to go take a look at the drastic measures because I've tried everything. I did bounce back and forth with my weight all throughout my life. At one point when I lived in Ottawa, when I married Kathy, I was a bigger boy. But before that, I was down to like 225, which is really light for me. And at the point where I went to the doctor, I was 310, 315. Okay, so that's like, okay. I fluctuated a lot. I lost a bunch of weight. I did this one diet you had to pay $1,000 where they basically starved you and they injected you with vitamin B12 every other day at this place. It was crazy. It's called the Berenstein diet or something like that. I lost 44 pounds, but then I gained back 100. So I did the back and forth thing all the time. I tried everything. Okay, but it's just about addiction. Everybody in my family, everybody basically has some kind of addiction, but I'm very addicted to things. I can get very addicted to things very quickly. Sugar, Doritos, food, whatever, right? My addiction was sugar. Everybody else in my family, it's alcohol or drugs or whatever, right? So there's always an addiction thing going on. That's why I never touched alcohol or never touched drugs, because I realized I would probably become addicted to it really fast. I started researching, trying to get this gastric bypass or gastric sleeve, right? And I said, I got to do something. I can't do this anymore. I'm heartbroken. I have to try something drastic or I'm going to die. And the Ontario government told me that I'm not fat enough because my BMI wasn't high enough to be eligible for the surgery. Because even though I was a big boy, I also had a lot of muscle. Okay, because remember, I grew up doing construction and all the manual labor and all that kind of stuff. And so I did have quite a bit of underlying muscle mass. I was very strong. I could do lots of things, but I was also really strong. So, because my body mass had a lot of muscle, also I was big, they're like, you're just not eligible. There's other people who need it. Plus, if you want to get elective surgery in Ontario, in Canada, it's really difficult, even though it is paid for, but they make that one really difficult to get paid for because then everybody would go do it. And it would be a huge burden onto the taxpayer. I get that. So I was pissed, talked to my wife. I said, look, I got to figure something out. So I just looked on Facebook and started looking at surgeries and seeing what people were doing who were denied this ability to do this in Canada. And then I stumbled upon surgery tourism. And I said, okay, well, let me take a look at this. Because I've tried everything. At this point, I've had it. I will do whatever it takes, okay? And I stumbled upon this one page and they said, okay, this is what I did. I went over to Tijuana, Mexico, and I hired this surgeon, and there's this like medical tourism industry, and there's like a broker that you can hire, and they'll get you connected to a doctor. There's research you have to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And it took me months and months and months of research. I asked a million questions. I called the doctor there that I was, I've hired a broker, and they connected me with the doctor, and his name was Jesus, which is great because I'm confident that Jesus will help me. And this guy happened to be the main guy that all the Canadian people went to. And so he would talk to me on the phone. He'd walk me through the process, made me feel comfortable with it. The guy does like 4,000 or 5,000 of these a year. And I said, well, which one should I get? And he said, it sounds like based on your habits, the gastric sleeve is probably going to be the best. So they take about 80% of your stomach out. Up to this point, I've never had a surgery. I've never had anything like that. I've never been injured enough except for the cast on my arm at one point, but I've never had surgery. Never been put under for anything ever. I'm scared of surgery, okay? People were trying to tell me, I didn't tell a lot of people, but the people I did tell are like, dude, they're going to like steal your liver. Because like, apparently in medical tourism, they used to, I don't know if it's a thing, but it might be, but they can take part of your liver and you won't even know, and they sell that shit. So it's like, well, how do you guys mitigate this stuff? And again, if you get the right place, they're going to be covered, right? They record it laparoscopically. You have the CD for yourself. You could show to your doctor when you get back. Like, I trusted this guy because I talked to like 400 people. I was a part of all the threads. I was immersed in it every single day, more and more gaining confidence about how I'm going to do this, okay? So I decided I'm going to do this. It's about $5,000, which is insane because here in Canada or the US, it's likely $20,000 to $30,000, okay? Found my doctor, talked to a lot of people who had major success with it, was getting excited about it. I was seeing other people's success. And I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do. But before you have to get surgery, you have to lose 20 pounds. You have to go on a liquid diet. And I'm like, I'm doing this. I went on this liquid diet. I lost the 20 pounds. I was like, feeling good. And I think a lot of people chicken out at that point because like, I can do this. I just lost 20 pounds. It was great. It was easy, right? But then it would just bounce back later, right? You can't, that's not a sustainable life to live on 800 calories a day and drink water. You can't do it. So leading up to the surgery, I did that. I achieved everything I need to do. You're talking to this guy on the computer or whatever, like every other day, just prepping for it. And what you do is you paid my thing. I fly into San Francisco, I think it is. I don't know where in California is closest to the Mexico border that takes you to Tijuana, but you fly there and they have a guy come pick you up at the airport. Okay, holding your name with a sign, drives you over the Mexican border, drops you off at this really classy hotel. It was a really nice hotel. It says, come pick you up in the morning. I'll take you up to the clinic for surgery. I went by myself. You heard it. My wife couldn't. We had a newborn. Weston was just born. Everly was young. We had the boys. Kathy couldn't come. I couldn't afford to bring anybody with me. I couldn't expect people, hey, you want to come with me, pay your own way to come watch me get surgery? I don't know. So no, I couldn't. I had to go by myself. My wife was not very happy with that. I'm not going to lie. But I went by myself because because I'm dumb. I don't know. So I did it. I get to the place, I stay overnight. I'm so nervous, okay? I'm so nervous, but guy comes and picks me up in the morning, and then we start driving into Tijuana, like way into Tijuana. I'm not even still Tijuana. It's like an hour drive. I think I have some footage of it. Get to this clinic that looks like it's straight out of the 70s. It doesn't look like, a really nice clinic. I'm like, oh, what have I done? It looks old and dated, and it is what it is. I guess it's just the way it was. So I get in the surgery, and then I meet Dr. Jesus, and he's like 4'5". I have a picture, and he's like, hey, I'm going to do this. This is how this is going to go. You're going to be put under and all this stuff. Just put this gown on and get ready. I'm nervous. My heart's going. I'm like, oh my gosh. But at this point, again, when your life is kind of at stake, there's not a lot you won't do. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be able to have a long life. I don't want to die of a heart attack when I'm 40. I want to be here. I want to be able to hang out, play with my kids. I want to be able to play sports again and be healthy again. That's really what it was. And this was, I thought this was the only way. And honestly, I'd do it again. So all that, I get on the gurney. They roll me in. Again, I've never had surgery. I've never been put under. And this is it. They put the mask on my face and they say count backwards from 10. I remember saying 10. And then I woke up like this. It's so funny because I remember it. I was like, pain. That's all I could say was pain. It's so much pain in my body. So it felt like a second, right? I felt like I closed my eyes and then I opened my eyes. And it was done. Right? And I'm like, ugh. And I felt like I was off to the side somewhere. It wasn't even in a room. Someone's like, oh, he's awake. Let's wheel him into his room. So I get into the room. There's bloody foam, I guess, coming out of my mouth a little bit. And there's a drain in my belly. And I'm just laying there. It's not intense pain. It's just like a aching, like, oh my gosh. I don't know how to explain it. It hurt. But it wasn't like a sharp, ouch, no, it was more like, oh my gosh. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, if you've had the surgery, you know. So they put me in my room that I'm going to recover in for the next 4 or 5 hours. And they're just like, chill out. And they come check on me every, whatever. They're emptying the bag of pus and everything else. And I'm just kind of hanging there watching Netflix on my phone and just normal. An hour later, I'm up walking. And I'm feeling good. I'm like, hey, it's not so bad. They give you the meds you're supposed to take. And they're like, hey, you look great. So they send you back to this place. It looks like this townhouse village almost. Like a little gated off area in Tijuana, near one of the Tijuana markets. It's definitely tourism there, right? It was not like inner city Mexico. It was like tourism. So really, really safe place. And they're like, we're going to take you into town. All you can eat is popsicles. That's your life for the next week. Right? Popsicles only. So I pounded popsicles forever, like the fruit ones. I could get everything I want. I had to stay in Tijuana for 2 days because the next day I had to go get an ultrasound or something where they take you into this really, really nice clinic and they just make sure that there's no leakages inside your stomach. So the next day they want to see that there's no, you could die from sepsis if that happens, right? So took me in, and they're like, you look great, awesome, we're taking you back home. So the next day, they drive across Mexico, I hop on the airplane, I go home. That's it. That's the surgery. It was $5,000. And then I ate popsicles for the next week or so, soups, broths, nothing. I lost weight so fast. Like, I kid you not. The only thing that was keeping me fat was the amount of food I ate before. This was my success. This was exactly what I needed because I had a huge appetite and I could eat tons of food. Like, just a whole pizza if I wanted. That's how much food I could eat. Thanksgiving, 3 plates. No problem. Okay? I could eat 3 bags of Doritos in a sitting. I just was terrible. Okay? I never ate breakfast, but I'd eat huge meals and I'd snack at night. So I get home, everything seems to be good. I go to my doctor, he's like, looks good, stitches look good. I pull up my own staples because I'm like, whatever, here they are. And everything was going great. It's about a month or 2 or 3 weeks before you can actually start introducing solid foods. And then I started introducing solid foods. And I would eat, like, I'm not kidding you, if I can find something like this much chicken, okay? And I would be full for 4 or 5 hours. When you get this type of surgery, you barf so many times, even if you drink too much water too quickly. Like, if I were to take this and do this and then do it again, I would barf the rest of it up. Your stomach is like this big when you come out of there. So you've got to re-stretch it back to a normal size, like a normal, so you can put anything in there. And so that was my success. Came from not eating anymore. I literally had no appetite for anything. I only ate to survive, and I ate what I was supposed to eat, which was my greens and my proteins, and had a protein shake. That's it for like months and months, because that part of the stomach that they cut out of you also takes away the whatever that gets you hungry. I don't know what it's called. And it was massively successful for me. I remember when I'm like, okay, I was a couple months down the road, I'm going to try to eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's. I took 2 bites of that cheeseburger. I'm full, barfed it up. I could no longer eat junk food. Couldn't eat Doritos, couldn't eat any of that stuff. That takes a long time to get to. So again, one of the big things what he said was, once you have this surgery, there is no more soda. You cannot drink fizzy beverages at all, and you cannot use a straw because it'll hurt your stomach, right? It'll expand it. It's bad for you. And to this day, I think I've had 2 fizzy drinks in my entirety over the last 6 years. And both of them were Tahiti treats because I found them. One in the States and one here a little while ago, but I don't touch it anymore. I do touch like iced teas and stuff like that, but I will no longer drink fizzy beverages. And I honestly believe that's how I kept most of the weight off. Huge success with the weight loss. Then I start running. Justin Bieber drops his record, not the yummy one, the one before that. And I'm listening to Justin Bieber while I'm running, doing the Couch to 5K app. Okay. The weight is just, I'm not kidding. I went to a person's wedding 3 months after the surgery, and I was a brand new person. I could wear clothes 2 sizes. I think I lost 80 pounds in 4 months, or maybe 6 months. But I was dropping 2-3 pounds a day because I just wasn't eating. But I wasn't tired. I had tons of energy. I felt amazing. My body image was improving. I was like, I'm going to boxing now. So I started boxing again. From way back in the day. I started running and boxing and just getting super in shape. And everything, I was like, my body was just transformed. And oh my gosh, I can't explain to you guys. My life was saved. Okay, that's it. Like, I have no other way of saying this, but that saved my life. You guys see the pictures of me before and you see me now, right? That was almost 7 years, 6.5 years ago. It's a long time. Remember that doctor said that it's never successful. It's successful for a small amount of people. And I happen to be that person that was perfect for. Okay, because I took it seriously afterwards. The exercise, the food intake and everything, I took it really, really seriously. To this day, I love being active. I work out all the time. I play pickleball, I play hockey, I play whatever I can play. I love being active because I used to be all the time anyway. So if you're going to get a surgery like this, you better make a plan to be super active and exercise all the time. This is not going to be a surgery you can just get and then you think it's going to solve all your problems. It's like a Kickstarter into all those other things, but you have to want to do those other things too. You can't just sit around and not exercise and not do anything. It's going to go hand in hand and it's going to make you highly successful. But you're also going to feel really good about doing those things again because your joints aren't hurting. You feel your confidence is higher, so you want to lose more weight. You want to look really good. And that's what happened with me. I just wanted to look good. I wanted to, it was a confidence thing. I've been fat my whole life. All of a sudden I'm not fat and people look at me differently. People talk to me differently. Like you are viewed differently when you walk into a place no one's ever met you. You are viewed differently. Girls start looking at you. Okay, that never happened to me before. Okay, people treat you differently when you're skinny than you're fat. I ask anybody who has had this type of surgery. And some of them find it really like damaging to them, PTSD. Like, I can't believe that thin privilege exists, because thin privilege exists, everybody. It absolutely does. So anyway, all this time, I'm applying for that job. I get the job. I say, let's get going to this new place. I've lost a lot of the weight. I have way more confidence. And I honestly believe that I got way more interviews for these churches because I was skinnier. I kid you not. When I was fatter, I got maybe 2 or 3 interviews based on my skills alone. But when I was skinny, I had like 100. I had 100 responses for, we want you to come work at our church. I kid you not. 100 responses. And I chose the one local here because we didn't want to move to the US. We tried a bunch of places in Texas that didn't really work out. And then one in Florida, and then one here. And so I took the one here. So all that accumulates to like, that's my weight loss journey. I have a podcast on it. You can go hear it. It's more detailed. But that was it. That was what saved my life to this day. And I would do it again. I absolutely would. And I encourage anybody who is suffering with morbid obesity to consider it. Right? It's worth taking loans out to get, I'm not kidding, but find the right place, be really safe, do your research, and expect to work really hard once you get that tool in place. Okay? So I know a lot of people suffer. I know a lot of people who do struggle with their weight, and this would be the tool that would help them get there. But do it with the intention of like, I'm going to do this because I want to be a pro athlete, or I want to run again. I want to run a 26-kilometer marathon. I want to play squash. I want to do all that. Do it with the intention of what it's going to do for your life after. Not just the weight loss and you think it's going to work. Because I've known many people who've got the surgery and they gain more weight back afterwards because they just started pounding slider foods. Dangerous to get it and think that it's just going to solve all your problems without getting exercise. Okay? So I hope that encourages you. But that's where it took us. So we move to this place. We keep our house. We're going to rent it out because we don't know. You don't know, right? It could be 6 months. I have 6 months probation at this place, and it could work. It could not work. So we kept our house. We just rented it out. Get to the place, start working. Everything's going great. Everything's awesome. And I forgot, I have to go back though before we moved. My mom had come out once my youngest was born to help out. And I remember her saying that something was wrong. And we took her to the doctor to get these puffers because she couldn't stop coughing and all this stuff. And, you know, he's like, here, take these puffers. When you get home, we'll set up an appointment. She gets back home and she calls me. She's like, yeah, I have lung cancer. And my mom isn't someone who's like, oh, woe is me. Like, she was just like straight up with me. She's like, just so you guys are aware, I have lung cancer. And I started crying. And then she started crying. And I'll never forget that call. It was really, really heartbreaking to hear that your parent has lung cancer. Well, what stage is that? I don't know yet. It looks like stage 2. So, you know, it's hard. She's going through all the processes. And before I moved, she overcame it. They said, you have overcome the lung cancer. So everybody was so happy, everybody excited, back to life, back to normal. Get to the job. Mom calls me again, a few months into the job, cancer's back. And this time they think it's spread to my brain. And again, it hits you hard when you get these calls, okay? Regardless of my mom and I's past, you know, I'm an adult now. I've got kids. She's the grandmother, all this kind of stuff. And our relationship is a little bit better. I still call her on the phone. I do all these things. And I remember the first time she got the diagnosis, she immediately quit smoking. And from that point to the end of her life, she never smoked another cigarette, which is crazy because she'd been smoking since she was 13 years old. Okay? That is someone who smoked 40 plus years of their life, 2 packs a day. Sometimes smoking those Indian cigarettes that are super dangerous. Okay? That is something like that hit her so hard. She quit instantly. She quit drinking everything instantly, stopped everything. And it didn't do a lot for her relationships. Like people, that's what they did. They weekend drank and they smoked. And my mom was like, I don't want to do that stuff anymore. So she stopped doing that. And I think she lost a lot of her support, which is weird. Not from everybody, but she didn't do that partying stuff anymore. Then she started like kind of judging other people for doing it too, which is kind of whatever. She would tell me that. She's like, I don't want to do that. And that's all they want to do. And I don't want to be around them. And so anyway, my mom going through this diagnosis, I moved to the new church, I start working, and then she calls me with this bad news, and I'm heartbroken in my office. I'm just like bawling my eyes out. My boss like, what's going on? I'm like, I gotta go. I have to go to New Brunswick to see my mom. They're like, no problem. Give you the leave. Head out. So I head out to see my mom because she wants me to go to the hospital with her to see if she's getting the scan done to see if it's spread to her brain. And so we get to the hospital. I get out there, I drive her to the hospital, and she's just so nervous. You can see the weight on her shoulders. Never seen weight like that on my mom's shoulders. Like again, our whole life we've been poor, had nothing. She kind of rolled it off. She might not have shown her weaknesses, but this time she was completely weighed down. You could tell. And we get in there. The doctor says, "Hey, good news. It has not spread to your brain." My mom immediately grabs my hand, starts bawling her eyes out. I'm crying, and the doctor's like, okay, good news, but you still have this diagnosis here. We have to get back to this. She tries everything, and nothing's helping. Stage 4 at this point, and she's just like getting ready, and she's like, God, Josh, I've started going to the church. I started, realizing who God is in my life. And then we had the conversation. This is the conversation my mom had when she called me. And again, our relationship to this point, once I started, being a pastor and all that kind of stuff, and just being a normal dad or being a normal person, I would call her a lot more. We'd have a lot more conversations, right? A lot more forgiveness was had, a lot more grace was had. And it was just like, we didn't really talk about the past, but we just kind of just went on with the future. She wouldn't, she's like, can I send you some money? I'm like, I don't need your money, Mom. I don't need it. Can I send you money? She said, no. She would never take money. She didn't need it, but she would never take any money. And I can tell that the guilt was starting to get to her later in life, right? As a guy who grew up, I didn't take the path that she took, and she started realizing that, she's proud of me. And I remember she said that. But this is what happened. So she had called, and she's crying, and she's like, I just want to apologize to you. I want to say I'm really sorry. And I said, for what? I'm like, what do you mean? Because no matter what you go through, your mom still hung the moon, right? Kids who go through trauma with their parents and all abuse and everything, a lot of them still absolutely love their parents. Kids who are removed from their home because of bad situations, they still love their mom, right? It's still, there's a bond that's something you can't break. And so I didn't, just like, for what? And then she kind of went over some things. She's like, I know I was the worst mom to you. And I'm like, it hit me pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. When she said that, I was like, no, but I know in my heart, like, I know she knows that I know. I was like, no, but she's like, no, I have to apologize to you. I have to make things right, because the things that you went through and the things that I put you through and the hard times we had and everything else, I didn't do what I was supposed to do as your mother. And I'm sad that it took me to the end of my life to tell you these things, but can you forgive me? And there's a long silence. And then again, this is the point too, where I'm at church, I'm a pastor, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm a Bible thumper, and I'm going, of course I forgive you. I mean, there's nothing to forgive you for, basically. I told her, I was like, yeah, we had some hard times, but I came out on the other side okay. And, I don't blame you for those things. And to this day, I don't know if I do. Like, I don't know, I know it sounds like I blame my mom for a lot of my problems, but I'm okay now, right? It came out on the other side. If not, I'm stronger for it. But yeah, there's some things she's to blame for, of course. And parents who abuse their kids and do that to the kids, they're to blame. But at the same time, you don't ever want it. It's not something you need to say. But she wanted her forgiveness. And she's just like, before I move on, I want to know that I have forgiveness. Because she started going to church, and I think part of her process was like meeting with pastors, end of life care, saying if there's anything you gotta make right, you should go make it right. And I was her first call, and I think I was her only call. It meant a lot, and of course I forgave her. And then, this is the end of her life, and it was a moment in my life that I was like never expected to happen. Like that's rare, right? You get a parent that calls you and is humbled, who's never been humbled in their life to you. I mean, you see them in their most humble because you see them at their lowest, like trying to commit suicide, fighting, stabbing, living poorly, just doing, self-destructive lifestyle. That stuff is humbling because, they're humiliated in front of you. But there's not, when they humble themselves to you, especially as a parent, that's really, really, really deep. And so of course I forgave my mom, and she made her reparations with her family all over. I don't think with her other kids though, to be honest with you, just because she didn't have a good relationship with them. I called her almost every other day. Then we just discussed life and what's going to happen. And then, I was trying to work and being distracted with the stuff. And again, remember there's this big space between when I didn't even see my mom from when I left her when I was like 17 till I was like 27. There's like a 10-year span where I might have seen her once in my life over that 10-year span. Yeah, and then when I was in a band, I saw my mom twice when I went to New Brunswick, and saw her a couple times, and she was really proud of me and everything. So it wasn't a lot of time, but now we're like talking every day. We're trying to make up for old time, and we went with her for Christmas and everything else. Although all mom was losing her hair. and she looks like she's 80, but never once complained. Never once said, why me? To the end of her life. And maybe she deserved it, but she never thought she deserved anybody's love. And to the end of her life, she didn't want anybody's pity. It's a cold heart that she developed for her whole life. She felt that pity was a weakness. So she's living with a diagnosis, getting sicker. And I said to my aunt, I said, you give me a call when I need to head back out. Like when I need to come back to New Brunswick, when things are looking, meek, or when things are looking bleak, let me know, please. So I get the call a couple of months later. My aunt's like, you better get out here right now. Like, she's like, you might get on a plane now, is what she's saying. So I did. Got on the next flight as quickly as possible. Again, we didn't have a lot of money. Thank God for my in-laws who were like, we will give you the money to fly out. I had, like, again, we didn't. Expensive. And thank God for my in-laws. So I fly out, get the rental car, drive out there as fast as I possibly can. I pull up to the house. Mom's in the living room on her sick bed, the one that they brought from the hospital. And it was like right before they gave her those drugs that kind of like take you out. They put you, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're sick and you're about to die, they give you the drugs to kind of put you under, right? And she just before she had no cognitive ability anymore. I pulled up to the house. I ran in, and there she was. Gave her a big hug. She was still, hey, she's like, hi, I love you. She had no hair. And she looks so sick. The shittiest thing about cancer is that if you haven't seen them for a while, and you have this image of your mom in your mind, and then you see them after cancer has ravaged their body and all the shit that's gone through their body, and you see them like that, at their lowest, weakest point in their entire lives, that's so heartbreaking. Sorry for all the cuts, but anybody who's gone through that, my heart is with you. So they were waiting for me to get there before they can give her the other drugs. And so they give her the drugs, the nurse leaves, and the hospital, the truck is on his way over. Mom is laid down and she's starting to go out, and the last thing she said to me was she loved me, which is thank God. And the last thing she said to me was she loved me, and I'm so thankful that she did. It's the most important I love you I've ever had in my life. So while she's had the meds running through her body, I had to go upstairs because everybody's there, and I needed time to get away. And so I wrote this I went upstairs, and I guess my way of venting was to write something. I don't know why I did this, but I had my camera and I took a picture of her hand because I always loved my mom's hands. And I wrote this. I said, as I sit here with my mom, I look at her hands and I'm reminded of a mother's strength. These hands fed me, carried me, rubbed my back, and soothed me. They worked themselves to the bone when she worked jobs that most men couldn't do. They put food on our table. They reached out when I was hurt. They decorated Christmas trees. They made the best homemade bread I've ever had. They spanked my ass when I misbehaved. They held so much life. And now as my mother lays on this bed while cancer steals her breath, all I can see is how much she actually did for me in my life. She sacrificed a lot and was dealt some of the worst deck of cards I've ever seen for any human being. Our history was not always good. And some years ago, my mom called me to apologize and ask forgiveness for being a bad mom when I was younger. Although I didn't see it that way, I can look back and see that, yeah, there might have been some things that she could have done differently, but through it all, I'm constantly reminded at how much we as humans let one another down. But the bond between a parent and a child is usually one of unconditional love. I think when we become parents, we get a clearer picture of God's love for us. We are His children, His creation, and we make bad choices and have sweet memories in all the human things we do. And God loves us the same through it all. Over a year ago, my mom called me to tell me she had lung cancer. We talked and had high hopes. I went to see her when she had scare that had spread to her brain, and I'll never forget the look she had when she was told by the doctor she didn't have brain cancer. You could literally see the weight lift, and when the burden came off. That year, my mom gave her life to Christ. This broken, used, beaten, abused, garbage life. Though it was all she had,
she gave it to God, and he has it now. So as I was writing that, in that last line, this broken, used, beaten, abused, garbage life, I was saying that about her, and it was meaning me. Or us. And then I just broke down for about 2 hours. I could not stop sobbing. People probably heard. They left me alone. And then I hear a knock at the door, and they're like, okay, the transport's here. We're going to take her to the hospital. Let's get going. So we went over to the hospital, which was next to that school I told you about, which has I got to go in to see if they still had my logo, or the thing I painted, and it was still there. And, my mom is out at this point, and she's not waking back up. And she has a DNR. She's like, do not resuscitate at all. Like, she was done. My mom didn't give up on her life. But she'd had enough. So we're all sitting there around Mom and watching her take her last breaths. If you've ever seen someone do this, you'll never unsee it. It stops, then it goes again. It stops, then it goes again. And then it's done. And she was gone. I got in my car to leave. I had to get home. Funeral plans. I had to go home and get the family, come back for the funeral. And I just remember thinking of everything. The life that my mom led. The things I didn't know. Things she would never tell anybody. The darkest secrets she held. The protections that she gave us. The hurt that she caused. And the redemption at the end. And I remember feeling, though, even though I hadn't seen my mom in years and years and years, we didn't have the tightest relationship, she was still in my life. And I remember for the first time in my life ever, even though I'm married, I have kids, I felt completely alone. Oh, he sees me crying. He wanted to give me a kiss. Hey, buddy. How are you? Good boy. Dog knows. Again, even though I was kind of independent most of my life, I knew I had my mom. I could call her. She's still my mom. But that was the moment where I had nobody anymore that was like, that I was tied to. Yes, I have a biological father, but he's not my father. Right? I have aunts and uncles and all that stuff, yes. But I didn't have a good relationship with my sister. I hardly know my other sister. Me and my brother had a falling out. My mom was my only tie to having someone close in family. And I was literally done. I had nobody. And it really hurt me. Things have changed since then, and I know I'm loved, and I have lots of people who do that, but it's hard to overcome that, right? It's really, really difficult. So, get home. Wife's there. Everybody's like, let's pack up the van. We got to head back for the funeral. So, I don't know what to expect. Get everybody in the van. We're heading back. It's the longest drive of our life. Get there, and the funeral was actually a celebration of my mom's life that I never expected. There were so many people at my mom's funeral. I expected, I kid you not, 10, 15 people. There's over 250 people there. From every walk of my mother's life. Aunts, uncles from that side. Grampy was there. And my uncle and aunt from my mom's adopted family was there. Like, every friend my mom ever had, every side of my dad's family was there, because my mom still had relationships with everybody. So that was a pretty big side of the family. Like, friends, everybody that loved there's so many people love my mom, right? She was still very loved. And honestly, I think it's because she didn't start a lot of drama in her life or anything like that, but she just always had a cup of tea ready for you. One of her fresh made rolls. Always willing to help, always willing to support. And I wish she could have seen the people that were there. Because I'm pretty sure my mom died thinking she was the worst person on earth. Thinking she wasn't enough. Less than. And she wasn't. She was my mom. And I loved her. So I get up in front of everybody at the funeral. I sing a song. Kathy and I sing a song. I forget which one it was. I think it was "Oh Come to the Altar" by Elevation. Just about changing your life, that nobody can be left behind. and I was bawling, tried to say some words. It didn't work. But it was also a great chance to meet people I've never met before. My family, my sister was there. My bio sister I hadn't met for a long time. Aunts and uncles I'd never met. People in my mom's life I'd never met. Just reminiscing about how awesome mom was, and it was a really good moment. I was really happy. Everybody was celebrating her. It was good. It was good. Drove home. It took me a little while to recenter myself, but life went on. And none of this stuff really hit me later as much. Every once in a while, when, anybody who's had a parent that dies, every once in a while it just kind of hits you, right? Just kind of hits you. Christmas, birthdays, moments. You see another person with the grandparents. Important thing to remember is that there's redemption. And that fateful day that my mom called me and asked for my forgiveness for being a bad mom and me giving it to her, I hope that made her feel amazing. I hope that gave her a little bit more hope for her end. And she'd read the Bible and she'd call me with questions and stuff like that. It was really good. But it was a tough life. My mom got dealt a shitty deck of cards, big time in many ways. Made many bad choices. Made a lot of selfish choices. But in the end, we got to reconcile. And she did. She made her amends. And I'm so thankful she got to that for her. And for me too. It was really important for me. And when I tell my story, that's why I wanted to tell you guys this. It's not all that past doesn't make who I am now, right? A lot of people are going to be like, well, Josh was bullied, so he bullies people, right? And you can say that all you want. But in the end, the people that I talk about on here, the thing that has shaped me to be this person that wants to fight for these kids who are exploited is because those kids don't have a voice. This kid didn't have a voice. Okay? I wish I had somebody go to bat for me when I was young. I wish I had somebody to fight for me when everything was going to shit, when the chaos was erupting around me, right? And so people are they're weaponizing my history and my story against me to say, well, see, he's the worst person ever because he had the worst life ever. He had all this shit happen to him, and now look at him. So I want you guys to remember that even in these family vloggers and everybody that I talk about and these people that I think are the shittiest people on earth sometimes, I still think that they have redemption too. They can have redemption. If they decide to change their ways and do those things and protect their kids, I have nothing but love and celebration for them. Everybody has that opportunity. That's what this story has taught me over the time, is that, maybe I'm hurt and it does shape the way that I create my content and why I do what I do. It shapes the why anyway, for sure. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if you have some issues in your past, you can become an advocate for those kids because you don't want them to go through that either. It's literally what advocacy is. And that's kind of where the story ends. After my mom dies, I get back to here. Then the church, I was at the church for another year and a half or something like that. And then kind of the church thing fell apart. And then I get into real estate, drones, and all that kind of stuff, which I still do today. Micah happened. And then YouTube happened, which has been an amazing blessing in my life. An incredible, I wish my mom could see it. I wish she would laugh. She would watch every video and call me after every one, and she would just laugh because I could make my mom laugh. My sister called me the other day. I was making fun of Bits of Bree's Easter basket. My sister left me a video message, and she's just in tears, laughing so hard at the way, I don't know if the way I said it, but it reminded me of my mom. Coming up to this point, Kathy, we were going to have another baby. And that was the plan because I was working at a union. I was making good money. I'm like, let's do this. And she's like, okay, well, let's pull the goalie. And then because she applied for school a bunch of times. She didn't get in because she's an adult student, right? And that's just the way it was. Nursing's really hard to get into here. Probably not anymore, but it was really hard. And so she didn't get in the first time. We're like, okay, whatever. Let's have babies. She wanted another baby. And then literally pull the goalie. And not 2 weeks later, she gets accepted to nursing school. Like, put the goalie back in. And now she's almost finished she's just starting her 4th year. And as soon as she's finished, we're leaving the city because there's nothing here. We're going back to family, friends, and trying to find that dream house, big piece of land somewhere. Kids can have a pony or a turtle, I don't know, and just live life around family and support systems and people that we love. That's where you should be if you can. And that's where we're going to go. That's where we are. So I'm going to take you to church here for a second. I want you guys to understand something. That if you've been through any of the things that I've been through, okay, if you are making bad choices to this day, and if you think you're bad, or whatever the case may be, all these things that we all hold ourselves to really high, generally our worst critics, I need you to know that just don't let yourself get so far that you don't think that you can get back. always a road back. And again, I'm hoping that these family vloggers and everybody who does these things to their kids one day wakes up and has an epiphany and apologize to their kids and say, I'm really sorry for what we did. But for anybody else who's out there just making life choices on daily, and a lot of times we make bad ones. We have made bad choices in the past. We've hurt people in our past. We've hurt our kids. We've yelled at them. We've done something stupid, or we didn't care enough at one point for something. I need you to know there's a road back. There is always redemption. Always. I honestly believe as us as humans, that's like one of the most visceral points of our souls, is to like reconnect and be connected again to the way things used to be. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. But everyone wants to go back to those moments in our lives where they were amazing, and they want that, right? There's a moment in my life where I was really happy, and that's why I went back there. And to this day, it holds a lot of value in my heart. Whenever I drive through Beamsville, I feel good, right? It's a good place for me. And so that's same in relationships. So anybody out there who's estranged from their parents, mom, dad, whatever, unless they did something unforgivable, and there are unforgivable things that they can do. But if there's just something that, like, if it's resonating what I'm saying here and it's similar, I encourage you to take a step towards fixing it. But no pressure, okay? But I promise you that redemption feels good on all sides. Whether or not you're the one who did the thing or the one that had the thing done to them. Okay? I'm not saying that it's not that easy, but I'm just saying that there's hope. And I hope that you know that. So, that was a hard one. Not gonna lie, I'm exhausted now. Thanks for joining me for the story, though. This has been really, really, really eye-opening for me. I've learned a lot about me and my mom. I'm definitely never been more vulnerable in my life, especially in front of a camera. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad the story can resonate with people. I'm glad that you are here listening to this and are entertained by it, are inspired by it, heartbroken over it, and happy and laugh about it as well. Thank you for being here. Like, I don't know how else to explain that. You guys are amazing. And the fact that some people are interested in my story is really therapeutic because it allows me to come almost like we're having a conversation. And I think some people don't realize that just the conversation sometimes is all that you need. That's what therapy is. It's a conversation with a professional. But if you are bottling shit up that you shouldn't continue to keep bottled up, tell somebody. Get it out, find someone you trust, okay? Or put it on a video and watch it yourself. Because it's really been therapeutic. It's been a good moment in my life. This video series is something I will have forever. I will show my children and my grandchildren. And it's something I'm proud of. I'm proud of where I have come from what I was. My past does not dictate who I am now or who I will be. Neither should your past. Unless it's really amazing, then go ahead. But take a deep breath with me, everybody. Big one, big one. It's a good one. Thank you. That's all I have to say. I'll see you tomorrow.